This is Smiles TV. Welcome to Smiles Television Talk Show. I'm your host, Stephanie Anthony Miles, and thank you for tuning in again. Once again, we are bringing to you three hearts with one agape purpose. We will have on this three-heart panel, as usual, Miss Brianna Grayson, who is a mental health advocate, and she's a prolific writer. Also, we have Commander Valerie Young, commander of the Veterans of Foreign Wars, Post 3480, East St. Louis, Illinois. And I'm Stephanie Anthony Miles. I'm the executive producer and host. Remember, Jesus Christ was born of a virgin. He was crucified and buried, and he rose on the third day. Confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord. Believe in your heart that God has raised him from the dead, and thou shalt be saved. Stay tuned for Smiles television production of Three Hearts with One Agape Purpose.
This episode of Smiles TV features three hearts with one agape purpose. Join host Stephanie Anthony Miles as she speaks with Valerie Young, a U.S. military veteran, a Veterans of Foreign Affairs commander, VFW Post 3480, in East St. Louis, Illinois. Valerie brings an extensive background in criminal justice, from crime scene analysis to law and procedures. Valerie is also a melanated mother of two, servant leader, and a poet. We also meet Brianna Grayson, a mental health advocate who lives well with bipolar disorder and empowers others to do the same. Featured in the Healthy Reader's Digest, Brianna is a skilled technical writer with a passion for storytelling. Together, Stephanie, Valerie, and Brianna bridge a wide age gap. They create a dynamic space where each woman acts as both mentor and mentee, exchanging wisdom on careers, parenting, and emotional growth. Stay tuned for a fresh perspective on everything new, parenting challenges of adult children, and bridging generational gaps on this episode of Three Hearts with One Agape Purpose.
Welcome back to Smiles Television Talk Show. We're going to talk about social media, the internet, and how things have changed since my day. Brianna and Valerie, how are you guys doing today?
We are doing well. Thank you very much.
Good.
Good, just good. Okay, so look, we're going to talk about bridging the gap between digital natives and those who remember a time before the internet. I guess I'm the one who really remembers a time before the internet. And as I told you before we came on the air, I'm not elderly. I'm seasoned, okay. Right? And you're right behind me, right?
Not far.
So let's talk about that. A time before the internet. I'll start off. I remember even before smartphones, putting a dime in a payphone to make a phone call. You don't know anything about that,
I remember payphones. I'm not that young. Okay. I mean, I'm not young at all, actually, but no, I remember payphones.
You do?
I do.
Okay, I didn't think you guys, well, I didn't think you already remember payphones. But let's talk about what's so different today. How do you see things changing, and how can we keep up?
Well, think about inventions. Well, first of all, I came around when the quarter was in the payphone. I wasn't at the dime. But with that being said, we need to think about inventions, how the cell phone became to the actual cell phones. You had the block cell phones, you had the flip phones, then you had different type of IBMs, pagers. It's just elevated.
That's right,
So as time progressed, so will the technology.
And Brianna, what do you think about the technology as we see it advancing? I mean, you're a part of the generation that's pushing us forward.
Yeah, it's advancing pretty well, and then it just makes us live our lives in a very different way than we have before. Number one, we are always available to people 24/7 now.
Great.
That was not the case earlier. Earlier was you left a message on their house phone voicemail machine, and you hear it when you hear it. When you get back, and you're not pressured to like, oh my gosh, I have to respond, or if not, they're gonna be upset with me. We didn't have to worry about that back then.
Wow, you just made a point. You said we're not pressured to respond, and even now on our phones, we have it set up where the people can see if you've even read the message,
right? Yeah.
So you can't pretend that you didn't see. And we're pressured to respond. So So is that causing any kind of issues among our youth these days? Are they just used to it and it's not an issue? Or how are we coping and teaching our youth to cope with the changes that are occurring?
You know, technology can be a good or a bad thing. It's about the individual and how they use it. Because unfortunately, we do have bad apples who use technology in an inappropriate manner that lures people to do things, or internet bullying or what have you. And then we have the whole spying thing where they can see things. The scamming has increased. But on a different side, you have people who communicate in a quickly fashion. You know, you have people getting on social media finding their relatives or long lost
That's a good
friends.
point.
So we have our pros and cons when it comes to that. That's the duality of life.
You know, the last broadcast, Brianna said something about we're all in the same room, and that just really resonated with me. Elaborate on that and tell me some of the pros and the cons that you see with us all being in the same room.
Okay.
And being in the same room meaning all ages.
Right. All ages are in this one room. So you'll have 13-year-olds in the same room as a 21-year-old. And that could be good. That could be bad. It could be good. You know, they could see positive things like good role models or just a good example. But like Valerie said, that has a negative. It can have a negative effect too, because you're a 13-year-old thinking that when you turn 18, I'm going to have this lifestyle because this person they're comparing themselves to like a 25-year-old or something. So that's what I mean by everybody's in the same room.
You know what? When you talk about being in the same room, and I think about the fact that I have young adults, and they're going to have children, right? And then if something pops up on the screen and you're all, let's say, we're physically in the same room, and something pops up, how do we handle that with our children? Do we just shut it off real quickly? We close their eyes, or do we make sure that we have filters on our internet devices and what have you to keep things from coming into that room?
And when we say the same room, I would like for us to specify, are we talking about literally, metaphorically, physically,
Sorry.
figuratively, because I don't want the general audience thinking, everybody in the same room?
Okay,
I mean, not literally in the same room. We all have access to the same social media. So they do, they have settings, I guess, that you can filter out things, but we know that young people can be creative and find ways to see things they're not supposed to see. So you asked what we should do. I think you should, try to filter these things out, but that's not always going to be the case. So I think you should have conversations about these things that you might not want to talk about, but you probably need to, because if not, they're going to get their information from the internet from a 30-year-old or something.
That's right. And I'm glad you made that differentiation,
because
but I do mean literally as well as being on the internet, being in the same room with strangers who are multi ages, but also I'm thinking in the family content as well, and you may be watching something and things pop up at that time. So let's take it there.
Well, it begins in the home, first and foremost. So we should not be afraid, ashamed to have those delicate conversations in the home and those tough conversations in the home, because we need to understand if it doesn't happen in the home, they're going to learn it in society. And you need to decide, you want it in the home version or do you want it in the street version?
How much time do you guys spend on the internet? If you had to guess, during the course of one day, 24 hours, how many hours would you suggest? And your phones will tell you, how long you've been on that.
Phone telling on me. If I'm not working my 9 to 5 or actively participating in the community, it is a lot, because sometimes I have to network. We have to think about the context of what we're doing on that internet, because I do network sometimes, so I just want to put that out there.
Okay. You're not just on there doing...
I am sometimes. I don't want to be that person.
How much time do you find yourself on?
I'm going to say take away 10 hours, because that's probably when I'm sleeping. So
You sleeping for 10 hours?
Yeah, I need all my 18 hours
my
of sleep.
Lord.
I'm just being generous, but when I'm on there a lot, even when I am at work, admittedly. So yeah, I am on there a lot, but it's not always, like Valerie was saying, it's not always bad. It's not always doom scrolling. I do like LinkedIn a lot, so like for my networking purposes, for what I'm trying to do with my advocacy and with my writing. So I'm on there a lot, but it's not all just mindless scrolling.
So for me, I am on there quite a bit. So what I find myself doing, God has given me the mind. I send out daily text messages, biblical in nature, right? So I do that, and not to brag or anything, but God has given me over 180 people that's on my list.
Oh,
and
wow.
so daily, and I haven't figured out how to do it in a group. So a lot of times I'm doing it individually, and that's where some of the disconnect comes in with the seasoned people here. And that's going to lead to my next question. So what are some of the most frustrating things that you found in dealing with older people in the internet?
We don't want to stay frustrating. I wouldn't, because you have to think about it. As we get older, there will be a shift. You have to think about it. Take us away from the equation. How did they manage? Take them away from the equation. How did they manage? And I'm speaking generationally. All we need to do is educate and enlighten. I know, like with me being with the VFW, some of my older members do not use the internet, and that's okay. So I go back to my basis. I will pick up their phone and I will call them, or I will. Some of them don't text, so we have to just go really old school, and that's being very generous.
Old school, huh?
But when but when they're ready, or when their family members decide to teach them something, then they'll branch out.
How about you? Did you see any challenges? We won't say frustrations. Any challenges in dealing with some who are older than you?
It just goes back to what I was saying last week. You have to meet people where they are. So you don't have to put yourself in the position where you are going to get frustrated. Just meet them where they are. Like Valerie said, if they're not into the internet or texting, call them. They have multiple means of communication, so it doesn't always have to be this frustrating thing. Or if you are a patient person, teach them.
You guys need to talk to my children because they are frustrated with me. Don't let me get a new phone.
Oh, gosh.
A new telephone has to be programmed with everything in there. So my children really have trouble with that. Let's continue this conversation. Tell you what, though, let's take a quick break.
Okay.
And we're going to come back and continue this conversation. And we're not going to leave our audience with the challenges, but let's try to think of some ways to really bridge the gap between the seasoned and the not so seasoned. How about that? Stay tuned for more Smiles. We'll be right back. The Smiles TV talk show wants to showcase you, your concepts, business, organization, ministry, activities, and services. Are you an author, an artist, musician, or do you simply have an inspiring story to tell? Smiles TV shines a spotlight on the good happening around the world. Sponsorship opportunities are also available. The Smiles TV engaged audience of men and women of all ages await your story. For more information, contact Stephanie Anthony Miles at 618-741-3770 or send an email to smilestv777@gmail.com. You look better with smiles. Welcome back to Smiles Television Talk Show, and we're talking about bridging the gap between digital natives and this new world that we're in, and the world is moving fast.
Yes.
We're talking about the internet, but we haven't even mentioned AI and the scary concept behind that and where we're headed. What do you guys think about bringing AI into our world?
It can be a unsavory thing, or it could be a positive thing. I do love the fact that they can summarize and all that, but when you start putting pictures and people and places they shouldn't be, or inserting things in there, I just believe we just have to be educated.
I think it's a tool. I mean, like Valerie, there are things that are not good because people create things that aren't true, and people get confused by that sometimes. That's not great. But it is a tool, and I actually have to use AI for my job. So a lot of people are, I don't know, they're just not educated, I think, and are scared of it just because of the lack of knowledge, I believe. And a lot of people, well, I won't say a lot of people, some people don't understand like what it does. They just think that it's like, oh, I just want to send this in and write a paper or summarize an email. It does so much more than that. Like, it automates processes at work. Like, I can go on and on, but I don't think AI is inherently bad.
Not inherently bad. I think just like anything else, we just have to watch it, and those who are operating it. That's the problem. We, the people, are the problem, not the actual tool itself.
We, the people.
Wow. We are the problem, not the tool itself. So I got a question. What's the first app you open in the morning, and why?
Email, and then after, Instagram.
Okay. And email for your business sake, or?
Just to see what I missed while I was asleep and see how I want to start my day. I have some things on there that I have automated through AI that just what I use to get my day started, like that I like to read. And then Instagram, just being nosy.
Okay. How about you, Valerie?
I'm still trying to learn the whole AI process, so I'm not afraid or ashamed to say that. With me, regarding the apps, it can be a particular game. I love intellectual games that kind of expand my way of thinking. I do the Bible app sometimes and daily devotions to kind of meditate on them.
Okay, and I found myself going to YouTube actually to listen to some music, some praise and worship music to get my day started. And then from there, some scriptures. I go to not a Bible app, but I like the Bible Hub.
That's
like God may give me a scripture in mind, so I'll go through that app to see all the different translations and kind of make sense of it from there. So this internet thing can be used for a good purpose. If you turn to my page, you're going to see a lot of scriptures, a lot of encouraging information. So I'm not just on there, using it for nothing. And it's also a business.
We get our social media out there. We get our platform out there. Some AI and all this internet stuff, it may be people's bread and butter. Look at all the people doing the streaming and all that. And, when COVID happened, all they had to do was get on the internet, do their recording, and that was their bread and butter.
Yeah.
And they went crazy when they took TikTok down for 24 hours because most of their platform was on TikTok.
That's that's their job. So
okay, let's bring this to the family again. I'm big on that. So let's say you're out to dinner. Well, do you have any rules regarding telephone usage while you're together?
Not now, but I will say if my parents were still together and we all lived in the same house, we probably wouldn't be allowed to use our phones because we weren't allowed to we all ate together every night, no singing at the table, we're all going to talk as a family. So I would assume that phones probably would not be allowed, but I bring my phone to the table with me now.
Okay. How about you, Valerie?
And that's kind of similar with me. Unfortunately, I feel like sometimes that phone can break up the household, meaning not literally, well, to a certain extent, meaning to a point where we're not close like we should. The first thing we wake up and to do is grab a phone, or when we go to the bathroom, we have our phone. Why are you going to the bathroom with your phone? It's like attached to your hip, and it really can be a addictive tool.
It can be. I just had a thought, and I really want to hear from Brianna on this. What do you think it would be like if you grew up in a time when you had to go to a payphone and use a dime or a quarter? However, you don't have your phones anymore. You can't run around with it. And how do you think you would feel like that with that?
I wouldn't know any other way, so
that's your point. You're the most sensible one sitting here. That's right.
No, but I would probably maybe just to touch back on what I was saying earlier about having to always be available. It might make me a little bit less anxious. Like, oh my gosh, I sent this person a text. They haven't texted me back, and it's 15 minutes. They hate me. So
and look, I'm sitting here with my phone right now. So
they won't on that payphone. You can't click over.
Right.
Wow. And then I think about the GPS on the phone. So back in the day when we were traveling, we literally had to read the map. I learned how to read the highway signs and match it up to the mileage and things of that nature.
Now that's what I have to say. Like, seriously, yes, we have the GPS and all that, but it has to be a point where you guys have to go back to the manual usage. If it's based on the computer and the world is wiped out or whatever you want to call it, or the computers are down, because that clearly happens, what are you going to do?
We are forced to disconnect like that sometimes. Like if this happened to me. I'm driving on a road trip, like real far in the country somewhere. I have my GPS on the whole time. No signal, no GPS. What am I going to do now?
Right.
You got to go to the gas station and say, hey, can you tell me how to get to this place? And then hope you remember it. And so you just, it's a time.
Okay, we're about to run out of time. So let's talk about how you take your phone to the table. Well, how we can help the generations not lose that interpersonal communication. You know, that time that we need one-on-one together without the social media. We need FaceTime. We need connectiveness. How can we make sure that happens in light of where we're headed?
Well, me personally, I tell my kids put the phone down. So
Put
we
it
can
down.
cook. Yeah, sometimes you just got to be up front. Put the phone down. Let's have a time talk. Now, I will say this: it's an app called Finch, right? And we use it for mental health purposes and goal setting, if you will. So maybe we can do something like, hey, no phone uses for 15 minutes. You know, we got to wean them, Brianna. We got to wean them. You know, and when you complete a goal, you check the thing. It's an honor system. Let me be honest. You know, you can add wash my face or drink water or break tasks down in little minutes. So when it comes to the children, for me, I will literally tell them, hey, we need to just sit down, do a word today, or play games as a family. I'm talking about not electronics, and apply the Finch app. I really like that app.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. I had not heard of that, so I'm glad you brought that up. I'm going to check that out. Any comments from you, Brianna, at this point?
Well, what I do is, I don't know about like having conversation with somebody per se, but when I do need to like buckle down, I will just deactivate my social media apps so that I don't get on them until like, I don't know, the end of the day when I'm finished doing what I need to do. So that's what I do.
I know a lot of people have to take breaks from social media. They say, well, I'm fasting social media now. And especially around the holiday time. When we were talking off the air, I told you guys on the phone how I wanted to talk about Valentine's Day and how people are impacted just with so much love or fake love that they see, and maybe this individual doesn't have a person, and so seeing certain things on the media can impact the way we feel and the way we react. So I think minimizing the use is absolutely necessary. I do know some young adults who literally said, I am not on social media anymore because it made them feel anxious. And anxiety can come in. So we have to be aware of ourselves and what we can and cannot take in.
Let's be very transparent. We are human, okay?
That's right,
we are
that's right.
emotional. We are flawed. So it's just like a first form of attraction. You're not going to know you like that person till, one, you see them with your physical eyes. So that's a form of natural attraction. Oh, he or she looks good. Nice build, whatever. Then you go to the next stage, which is the form of communication. But I want to encourage people, don't be hard on yourself when it comes to social media. I do agree. I would love to be married. Hello. I would love to be married. With that being said, you see people getting married, going on dates and all that, but guess what? You don't know what goes on behind those things.
No, you
That's
don't.
true.
And
Grass is
sometimes
not greener
people don't
on the
always
other
tell the whole
side.
story.
Yes.
You cannot get the full story
But that's
from
what you see
social
with your
media.
national eyes. So that's like, what do you do?
Ladies, we have really been talking quite a bit about what's going on with social media, and our technical producer, Sesman White, he has some great things to share, and I want him to chime in. It may look a little different for the audience, but you're going to hear Ses's voice, Sesman White from IDEX Media. Ses, what do you think about what we're talking about today?
You ladies had some excellent points. And I think if we're talking about phone usage, our phones now are multi-purpose tools. I do remember when there was a quarter, not a dime, but I do remember the phone booths and all that stuff, and then just transitioning over time into phones. I didn't have a phone until I was about to graduate high school. It was a track phone. Remember track phones?
Yeah.
And everything had like Snake on it, the game.
You had to buy the minutes to put on the phone.
You had to buy the minutes, and then because my parents bought it for me, if I ran out of minutes, then I'm in trouble, because if they need to contact me or I need to contact them, then that was the thing. But I can summarize, because we were talking about technology as a whole.
Yes.
And I have things to say about AI, of course, too, but any technology, and this is just all throughout time, any tool that is created, a hammer can make a hospital. A hammer has also been used as a murder weapon.
That's right.
It's a tool. So anything that happens just through the course of progress, as long as there is a use for it, people will find a positive use and other people will find a negative use. There's nothing that exists really that alters that.
Words of wisdom from Session White. Did I cut you off?
No, that was
Thank you,
about it.
thank you so much. Everybody, you don't know Seth Leonard. He's behind the scenes, and he's the one who makes this production a good production. So we thank God for Seth Leonard. Right. Thank you, Seth, for that perspective. You know what? We might have to make another taping, another session on this topic, social media, because we could just go on and on. Any lasting words before we close out?
Well, I'll just continue on the last statement. Just don't compare yourself to what you see on social media. If you have to take a step away from that, do that. Just make sure you take care of yourself, and if that means that you have to get off, then do that, and don't compare yourself to people. Just my biggest takeaway: don't compare yourself. Don't compare yourself to people on social media, because it's only the highlights of their lives. They're not going to put on their. I mean, some people do, but typically they're going to put all the high points. They're not going to tell you, well, yeah, this happened. That was so great, but to get to this, I had to go through this and this. And this.
That's right, Brianna.
They don't show all of that, so just be cognizant of that.
That's right.
With me, I would just say don't be hard on yourself. Those emotions, being anxious, being energetic, however that looks, it does hurt, or it does make you feel some type of way. Loneliness is real, people. So just don't be hard on yourself.
That's good. And those who compare themselves by themselves are not wise. I don't know the scripture location, but it is a scripture. And I like that input from you guys. My thing would be yourself. There's only one you. You know what I'm saying? There's one Stephanie, one Brianna, one Valerie. And if we all try to be like the other, then our mark on the world will be missing. Right?
Great.
Okay, ladies. Well, thank you for another episode of Three Hearts with One Agape Purpose. And thank you for tuning in. If you have any show ideas, any concepts, please send them to us. Send them to Valerie or Brianna. We're all on social media. Remember, what you do for Christ, and only what you do for Christ, will last. Jesus is the Lord. The Lord be magnified.
The Smiles Television Talk Show wants to showcase your business, organization, church, and activities. If you have an interest in being a guest on Smiles Television Talk Show, or if you have any show ideas, contact Stephanie Anthony Miles at smilestv777@gmail.com. You may also call 618-741-3770. Tell your friends to subscribe to the Smiles YouTube channel. Let Smiles TV increase your reach. Remember, you look better with smiles. IDEX Media does a lot. From IDEX Photography to IDEX Films. We help create forever memories and forever impressions. Imagination, image a world. IDEX Media.
Awesome sauce. Yeah, baby.